I mean, applications for security clearance are incredibly intrusive and incredibly personal on purpose. They are designed to ferret out anything that a foreign adversary might try to use to blackmail you, to get you to hand over classified information that you'll now have access to because of your security clearance. So application forms for a security clearance are like deep, deep background checks, and they're specifically looking for anything that anybody might try to use against you. So it's medical information, it's relationship information, it's very detailed questions about, like, have you ever smoked pot? Right? It's very detailed information about your family, about your extended family. It's super, super intrusive. And the government agency responsible for issuing your clearance is obviously supposed to protect that information in your security clearance application, right? Not just because it's intensely private, it's because, by definition, this is intensely private information about people who are obtaining security clearances. So it's important to keep it secure. It is information that is of a personal nature, but it's also of a sensitive nature when it comes to national security. That's why, for example, all journalists know you can't file a Freedom of Information Act request to get somebody's security clearance application. I mean, you can try, but if you get anything back from the agency that you're FOIAing, it's whatever you get back is going to be redacted within an inch of its life to protect the sensitive information in that document, and rightly so. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. But for some reason, the Trump administration responded to a FOIA request by this Republican group looking for information about this Democratic congressional candidate, ex-CIA officer Abigail Spanberger, and what the Trump administration sent that Republican group in response to their FOIA request was Spanberger's complete, totally unredacted application for a security clearance, including her full social security number, her entire medical history, right, everything. The reason Abigail Spanberger found out this had happened is because thereafter, the Republican Party and a PAC run by House Speaker Paul Ryan happily started showing this document to reporters and started using it in political attacks against her in her congressional campaign.
Isn't that special?
I mean, that is a legitimately new thing in politics. We're all supposed to be sort of jaded observers of politics, right? We're all supposed to think, oh, there's nothing new under the sun. This is new. This is new. I mean, maybe we should have expected it anyway. It was also new when President Trump decided to yank security clearances from former CIA Director John Brennan because of his role in the Russia investigation, and the president doesn't like the Russia investigation. Well, apparently, this is what comes next after you break that seal. Now the Republican Party is using this stuff in campaigns.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching.
I wonder if that applies to people who no longer exist. Welcome to the Lost-Begotten channel. I don't exist. But then again, I never did, apparently. Yeah, I'm not fucking ready yet. What if I just decided I didn't feel like making a fucking broadcast? Huh? Newsflash. Most nights I don't feel like making a broadcast. In fact, I never felt like making a fucking YouTube channel to begin with. Well, except for way back in the day when I thought I might be doing some UFO videos. For fun. You know, for fun. But no, I typically don't feel like making these fucking broadcasts. Just like I don't feel like dealing with these fucking cowards who sit there and come on and off the fucking broadcast in the first fucking 30 seconds. I did it again. Just gonna sit here and wait till I fucking come on. We got 2 people watching. Carlos says hi. Hi, Carlos. Then as soon as I get started, as soon as I make one fucking comment, you know, someone with a tiny little dick who's just so butthurt about how goddamn glorious of a man I am might sit there and fucking snivel over what I just said. Maybe I won't even make a broadcast. But you know what? Most fucking people would find that, as I do, kind of hilarious. Well, maybe I don't feel like broadcast. I don't want to make a TV show today. Nope. Fancy Dan over here. He's got this little system set up, and in his mind, he thinks it's a legal defense. Okay? It won't keep me from making sure that you fucking suffer the very idea of hell for fucking as long as I could possibly even tolerate the knowledge of someone suffering as much as you will suffer. That's how long you will suffer, how long I can tolerate knowing that someone is suffering that much. But that's only because you're too chicken shit to come here and do what any decent fucking man would do. Let me beat the shit out of him. And by let, I mean make every attempt to defend yourself. To no avail. But yeah, I don't feel like making a broadcast, just like I don't feel like watching the fucking ocean die. And you fucking morons, I bet you won't like watching your children die. But because you dumbasses, you fucking people who are so goddamn stupid it is a miracle that you could possibly chew gum and walk at the same time, you fucking people think you know better than me. So the world's ending. Good job, dumbasses. Yep, I don't feel like doing that shit either. I don't feel like dealing with that. I don't feel like fucking acknowledging the world. It isn't even worthy of its own existence. I don't feel like calling Trumpists conservative anymore. Because they're not fucking conservative. They're fucking neoliberals. Yeah, that's all they are. They're anarchists. They're morons. It's the system of government that is moron. Let me put it this way. Do you think that Putin's fascist regime could possibly fucking function in any way without an external boogeyman? See, the entirety of Russian and Horde society is based upon a standing wave pattern. That wave must stay in motion. If it becomes motionless, it will collapse. And that's if you dumb motherfuckers struggle to dominate the world, does it destroy it in the meantime? That's a really big if, because less than 0.0013% chance of that happening. The chances of them actually winning and establishing some sort of a future for mankind is about 10. Excuse me, about 10 to the negative 57th. Very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. You know what I really like? Is when you wake up from a nap all cranky and achy and tired, and you get that sinus drip. Right between your nose and your throat. Way back up there, deep in your head hole. It's like I want a hockey loogie, but I want to fucking blow my nose. I don't know what the fuck I need to do. Apparently, I'm gonna have to do both. But anyways, it's it's funny how the world like just watching the world destroy itself. That's hell for me. I'm not good at enjoying myself, you know? I'm not a very self-indulgent person. When it comes to even taking a break from all the damn stress because I feel my goddamn heart getting weak. And playing Final Fantasy 13 for a couple days. I can't even sit there for very long before I'm like, should I be doing something? For a fucking Capricorn, I'm really not that lazy. For a Capricorn. But anyways. I got some recent developments to cover. Got some news to talk about. I think I'm just going to sit here and stare off into fucking space instead. How about that? In fact, I need to do something with this fucking fish tank. It's just all screwed up. I'm gonna have some more coffee because I'm not awake yet and I don't feel good. Bah. But I have a bit of a problem with my little snail breeding project. There's these kind of terribly annoying fucking worms that live in your sand. Well, not your sand, my sand. Reef sand. And I forget the name of them, but they basically live in the sand and kill shit. And they got these fucking tentacles that just stretch out over about a little 4-inch circular area. And I just found 2 large stomatella shells. I'm worried in my gut that one of them is fucking Big Mama. Anyways. Yep. I don't feel like pretending to be an entertaining fucking host. I think the sheer amount of fucking talent I've displayed over these past few years and my ability to keep a conversation going for hours at a time without a teleprompter, without any kind of fucking anything on the fucking screens anywhere around me except for when I tell you that I'm looking at the TV when it's obvious I'm looking at the TV. I'm sitting in my fucking living room right now. This is the way my couch faces. When I'm staring off in this way, it's because I'm fucking staring off in this space. I'm never actually saying anything prompted or agendery, you know? Yet I managed to sit here and entertain people for hours and hours at a time. Something that I'm sure that many professional talk show hosts will acknowledge the difficulty of. Or would. Should anybody ever get to see my fucking broadcasts? So, Mr. Rodriguez, still there? Guess what? Guess what's got me a little extra grumpy? My wife's going blind in her other eye. Yep, the fucking disease has spread to her other eye. You know, what these fucking people that have shut down my recommendable status, what these people who fucking come in here for a couple seconds and then log their little complaint, you know, after over a decade of people getting 10,000 views in a fucking week for backwards facing camera videos, like Star Gods, the channel, remember him? The fuck did he talk about? Nice guy. What the fuck was he talking about though? Nothing. 10,000 views a video. 15,000 something. But you see, giving up and shutting down this YouTube channel and just letting these fucking morons destroy themselves, that's exactly what they deserve. And I'm sure they would take temporary delight in their delusion of success if I were to do so. But as much as they don't deserve that delight, as much as they deserve to be destroyed at their own hands because they're that fucking stupid, even less, and this is what stresses me, this is what has me at a conundrum, if you will, even less do they deserve to be my only audience, bar a few people. Ah, I love it when a sneeze actually works. But anyways, yep. Boy, if I wasn't so damn stubborn, I might actually be depressed. When I think about the level of work I put into this fucking channel, just the one-man band principle, not to mention the overall content, I mean, you got people who do little more than fucking hit a feeder bar, okay? You got some of them that make a very nice presentation of it. Some people with very nice graphics displays, and they got a whole fucking studio and a sound guy and a tech guy and a producer who's sitting there doesn't even fucking say anything. And you got your little bantering co-hosts. You know, and they got their fancy microphones hanging down. They're on a boom stand. Well, you gotta have a microphone on a boom stand. You know, here's the deal. If YouTube were remotely legitimate, and in no way a fraudulent enterprise, there would be about 50% of the recommendations that you would get would be just people live streaming on backwards facing cameras. Of the 50% remaining, that was people actually producing content with, you know, some motivation to actually get like a screen, you know, like I have here, a screen coming up that's not just them in front of a, you know, shit in their living room or their fake bedroom or whatever. Oh, damn it. of those people, of the people that want logos and captions and shit up, half of them at least should look similar to what you're seeing here. Now, the reason I say this is because of the program I'm using. When you go to live stream, there's only a couple of different fucking programs you can use. Most of them are for gaming only. This is the most popular fucking streaming software, basically, that's free, that you can just download. 1 second. Anyways, this is, it's one of the most obvious choices. Should have a large percentage of users having this as their interface. Yet, I have never seen a single broadcast of anyone. I've never seen anything come up at all that looked like it was an XSplit broadcast. Never. Carlos, do you know what extortion is? I don't know if it's convenient or not for you to be typing right now, but if you wouldn't mind, could you, in your own words, describe basically what extortion is? Yeah. You know, it's often related to racketeering, right? 1 second. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Demanding money or other things by force, taking advantage of a government post or position or some type of vital position of power, right? They're in control of some sort of resource. And it's not their job to sell this per se, but they want a kickback. They want something from you. Something like that. Yeah, that makes sense. So, like, if you wanted access to a vital service, say like your telephone company, right, your power company, something like that, and there was somebody saying that you needed to pay extra money because they don't like you, that would be extortion, right? Like, say if there was a communist party and they owned the power company and you weren't a member of the communist party, and basically everybody who wasn't a communist party member had to pay a due, right? Or like in a caliphate, the way a Sabian or a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew has to pay a tax, right? That's basically extortion, right? Or if, say, a social media company that had achieved a near monopoly status wanted you to pay to access features that were supposed to be available to anyone with the know-how to do things, but because of your political persuasion, because of your point of view, they want you to pay. Like Facebook, like Twitter, like YouTube, you know, like it should be a situation in which people can just go on there and find each other according to common interests. And that's how they were disguising themselves as when they consolidated the market. But since they've consolidated the market, since they've achieved near monopoly status, it's no longer a situation in which you can find people of common interest. The only people you can find are the people who have paid to be findable. And the only way you can get found is if you pay to be found. Right now, it doesn't matter what tags I type in on this live stream. Nobody is going to be able to, anywhere in the world, type in live stream and 2 or 3 words for the subject line and randomly come up with my live stream. And I'm not going to explain it any better than that because I don't want to demonstrate on here exactly how well I could explain this to a jury. But the fact of the matter is, among the many thoughts that I can sense of my little trollbot controllers, one of them is well, you know, usually it's their legal defenses that stand out to me. Their hypothesized legal defenses, and one of their hypothesized legal defenses is that I haven't used AdWords, so I shouldn't have a lot of viewers. And you see, you know, plenty of people that don't get a lot of views, right? They don't do daily uploads. They don't do daily live streams. And they're not 20-year IT veterans who know how to fucking type some keyword tags. Okay. And, you know, the only thing that I'm even lazy about on here is changing the 300 words of content in the description to match what I'm saying. But generally speaking, I recover what I have in my description every time. And, you know, they're has been no change in the results of the data when I have done the full routine versus when I just do tags versus when I do no tags. What I've seen is basically no difference. I can do no tags on a broadcast, on a video, no tags, and just a good title. I can do the full fucking shebang, tags with a whole new relevant fucking 300 word composition typed about the fucking subject of the video. No difference. And what this does is it proves a legal case for mass extortion on behalf of these paid ad platforms. You see, the fact of the matter is, most of the paid ad content is not from YouTube channels that are self-promoting. It was only when investigations that I prompted and had began looking into Google and YouTube and how they do their ads that YouTube started doing the thing where they would show these little channel videos and allow a video to pay to promote a little channel for a little while. And that was how they morphed pay to promote into something that it was never supposed to be, and then canceled it altogether. Basically all they're doing is trying to throw the people off the scent. They're trying to throw the FBI off the fucking trail of what they're actually up to. That's what all these different changes they've been doing are about. But anyways, so there's gonna be the need for a lot of individual racketeering arrests on the part of the people who are actually acting against American citizens while under the employ of Google Incorporated or Alphabet Incorporated. But at the managerial level, at the corporate level, possibly even at the CEO level, the charge that applies, the crime that's been committed, that is continuing to be committed to this day. In fact, it's being committed as I speak. You are witnessing evidence of it in real time right now. Is extortion. There is no talent requirement. There is no excessive use of profanity on this channel. There's a real person who gets really upset. I get irritated with things and I talk like a grown-up because I'm a fucking grown-up. You know who else does? Bill Maher, George Carlin. Pick a comedian. Now, if I, for some reason, because of my political views, don't have the right to be a comedian, I would like to see some sort of a legal basis for that rationale. Otherwise, this is extortion. Carlos, how horrible is my view here? Like, as far as channels to watch, is this more or less painful, more or less visually appealing than just some fucker with his, stupid little fake photos behind him? Or, just if I was just sitting here in front of my couch with all the shit on it. Like, I'm intentionally going for kind of an old school look with the fonts and everything because I'm an old school person. The reason why I chose this weird digital font up here, because that's how long I've been using computers, since there used to be weird digital fonts, The most intelligent. Well, that's a good compliment. I wasn't expecting that. I was hoping for, it's alright for MS Paint. And like, fucking sitting here with, man, I'll have tobacco in a pipe. I'll have butts rolled into little tiny cigarettes that look like joints, just to keep myself from mowing through a fucking whole pack of cigarettes over the course of one broadcast. That's because it's just become so inherently stressful to sit here and put all this work. I mean, imagine getting paid how little I'm getting paid right now. I mean, I know this is like a cause, and I'm supposed to be trying to make a difference here, but the two factors are the same, Like, the fact that so few people are allowed to see the broadcast means that I can't really take much comfort in that I'm doing good. But even if all I was allowed was an international audience, at least I would be allowed an audience. And even just like the 15,000 people I would expect to be watching, that would make no difference politically. No difference, really. That would fucking pay my bills. Now, I think, based on quality of content, my ability to speak clearly and entertain, and even sometimes start videos with original musical parodies and stuff like that. I mean, I've done some pretty cool stuff, right? You would think that I would have in the range of maybe 60, 90,000 subscribers, maybe on up into the realm of 250,000 when it comes down to how accepting people actually are versus how accepting Google wants to tell you people are. See, like, I would expect maybe a 1 out of 100 to actually be taking me seriously and to understand me on any actual in-depth level. But there should be just a vast plethora of people just watching in silence, like, what the fuck is up with this guy? And then there should be another vast plethora of people that just watch the freak show. Just enjoy the entertaining aspect. You know how people enjoy, like, the Colbert Report and, like, well, now Late Night with Stephen Colbert, and like shows that make you think and laugh and, you know, experience a different mix of emotions while broadening your perception on people, on society. I really think I managed to do all that here in a way that even when I come to the crazy talk, when I'm like, you know, speaking in first person when I should be speaking in third person so I sound sane, even when it comes to the fact that I'm the only person who has to speak in third person so I don't sound crazy, there's like an entire thing called #Jesus jokes that people are missing out on that, you know, I don't think they should be deprived of. Especially if I actually am who I think I am, or have proven that I am. Basically, whether or not you want to acknowledge who I am is whether or not you want to get your facts straight about who I'm supposed to be. But that, still, in itself, I don't present that in a creepy way. I don't present that in any kind of way that's like, you need to believe in me to get into heaven. No, you just need to take me at my word, because I provide a whole bunch of other information that you need to know to fix the world. And all I ask is that you don't hold my identity against me. It's apparently too much to ask, though. I won't get into the speech of how ungrateful it makes you if I actually am who I have proven myself to be. You know what the real point of the Bible is? Historically speaking? It's an attempt to reestablish the tradition that clearly has been lost this day, that would have made my return much more useful. You see, there are, basically every time I return, a series of holy visions that guide me to my identity, to my past, to exactly who I am and what I must do in this life. And I pretty much have an idea of how the future is going to unfold all the way into my 30s and 40s, when I'm barely fucking, 5 to 10 years old. And there's a lot of instinctual knowledge that I have that's just, my inherent sense of right and wrong that guides me and helps me to provide clear judgment that can help other people sort out the confusion in their heads, the confusion between instinct and hypocrisy and scripture and opinion. But there's a pretty clearly defined limit on what I can just instinctually know and what I have to learn just like anybody else. And the thing is, what I instinctually know seems to be based purely on what has been completely lost. So I find myself coming into circumstantial proofs of everything that I suddenly realized in 2011 when I awoke, but having to get my bearings on where civilization and society and everything was in a very weird way that actually helped me figure out the limitations of my curse, of this, set of rules, if you will. Because anything that's known today, anything that's, just written down somewhere that somebody's studying, I'm not going to be able to just pull out of reality because it's a secret that's lost and only I can find it. Does that make sense? Only the things that only I can find are the things that I'm just going to be able to spew out. Those different little memories that come to the surface when we start, delving into deep subjects. But then I'll come to a thing where I'm like, wait, I can't remember that. That's that. And I don't necessarily always know in real time when it's just the brainwashing of knowing history getting to me and misdirecting my instincts, or whether or not it's this big factor of, because it's something that people already know, I need to learn it again like a human. I need to refresh my memory again like a human. The main thing I remember about 2011, other than how much more just powerful I felt like my body was getting younger and stronger just like every time I thought about it, like I was just kind of glowing fucking blue. That was just weird every day, like. But the big takeaway was how unchallenging life actually was when I felt at total harmony with it. And I've had a challenging life. Sweet. Yay, botanical gardens. Well, the idea that you are here, what you are here to be here for. Like you are where God put you. You are where your soul ultimately manifested where it wanted to be. You chose to come here. You're supposed to be in agreement with this life. And that which seeks to destroy your soul and take claim over it is the only thing that contradicts that understanding, that harmony. And I remember deciding to kind of embrace that in a more realistic way, because I had become so on top of everything that while I understood that, I was inherently existing in a state which avoided it. So I considered, do I just, walk all the way to Washington, D.C. and declare myself while I'm fucking glowing and just able to, oh, wow, just move clouds with the wave of my hand, just Oh, you want to see the heavens part like a scroll, huh? Psh. I occasionally feel half that powerful when I'm in a good mood nowadays. Like the other night when I was making the moonlight brighten and darken and making a blue bright ring flash from outside of it. Just to, freak out the neighbors. That's a fifth, if that, of how just clear everything was in 2011. I remember taking a couple friends outside and with a wave of my hand, I could almost do this to you guys, whoever was watching in real time, if you were outside where you could see the moonlight. If you've ever seen sort of that glare line across roofs, right? If you're out on a balcony at night, that moon glare forms the lines before the shadows. Well, I would sit there and go like this. And I would make the moon glare get just intensely bright, like just flare up, like it's pretty cool. If I was sitting there like by myself doing this shit, I'd be like, either I'm going fucking crazy or, dude, this is some really good shit. I'd I'd be seeking other explanations. But, just like crazy don't show up on camera. Hallucinations don't show up visible to other people. And yeah, there's this thing called mass hallucinations. But aside from mass hypnosis, that's nothing more than a rationalization, and any instance that you could list has some other distinct possibilities as to what might have caused those, quote, mass hallucinations. Among these things are weather balloons and peyote. Oh, it's just killing me. I think two of my big breeding stomatellas have been killed. Because normally at this time of night I would see them on the glass. And I found these two fucking shells down there by this. Like, I knew as soon as I found the two shells that there was gonna be one of those damn worms with all the tentacles that just fucking, I'm telling you, they just like sting something and just like, you'll see it just inching along the gravel, just getting tugged little by little towards the mouth of the fucking center. Like some creepy sci-fi shit happening in like tiny proportions and slow motion. From the poor little stomatella that I first saw this happen to like 10 years ago. Couldn't do nothing about it, man. Because he's a snail and he's trying to grip on sand. You know what? If they're on sand, the fucking sand just gives way. And, oh. It's stressing me out. I need to go in there with chopsticks tomorrow and just start yanking that crap out. Can't see. It looks like my wife may have weeded some Callirpa out, but I'm not sure. I can't even tell from here. Got kind of an insane Callirpa problem. Yeah, I still don't really know what to do with it. Like, I might have to use a chisel to get some of these corals off of the rocks. And then put all the rocks with the Callirpa into this tank. And then hopefully have nothing remaining in the top tank. Now, unfortunately, there's something pretty serious stopping me from this. And that is the fact that in order to do this, I'm going to need to do a big water change. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to have to drain a bunch of water into a bucket and keep a heater in the bucket, keep an air stone in the bucket, keep it flowing, while I siphon all of the sand in that 20-gallon after I put some of those algae-covered, the Callirpa-covered rocks into this tank. So I'm going to need to change about 10 gallons of water. I've got salt. Got plenty of salt, actually. The reason why I have plenty of salt is because doing water changes right now doesn't make a whole lot of fucking sense, because my DI cartridges, the deionization media, looks kind of like radiator fluid when you blow a head gasket. A lot of light brown beads, you know. So, if I were to change water using those old shitty DI cartridges, I would be basically poisoning my fucking fish tank, because I would have an extreme amount of phosphates and silicates, which is what's causing my algae problem right now to begin with. That's all coming out of my top-off water. So, you actually get a pretty good idea of what is happening in the ocean right now. I was thinking about doing an Easy Reefers broadcast earlier, and just kind of couldn't come up with the ideas of the stuff that we were talking about yesterday, and I guess maybe when I do it I could focus on how my aquarium has now become an example. You can even see this little Kenya tree right here. Isn't doing all that well. Like it's surviving, but not very well. And you see, another big factor I'm not sure what was it, a CNN report? I'm proud of whoever that was the other day for actually. Did you notice they finally got the facts straight? You know, they actually repeated what I've been saying for a long fucking time now. Fertilizer runoff. Yes. Who'da thunk it? And they were even showing a map similar to the maps I've been drawing, talking about how we need to, either reinvigorate or artificially replace nature's filtration terraces, And they were talking about how channeling Lake Okeechobee directly into the ocean in these two areas versus having it dispersed through the natural delta system was causing these blooms. Well, what it's really doing is finalizing. It's causing the catalyst for those blooms. The conditions are being sown all throughout the Gulf of Mexico. But another exponential problem among all the different complicated intricacies of what just spirals out of control when you're irresponsible about, just dumping your poo and your fertilizer and your cow poo and your pig poo and your chicken poo and all that stuff, just letting it get rinsed off into the river and out into the ocean. Light. And I see that Kenya tree right there. It would be doing better if it had more light. Even though the conditions are overall deteriorating. Because more light would allow it to do more photosynthesis, which would allow it to clean out, basically, the toxins within its fluid structure, like its blood, like the salt water that is its internal fluid. It's kind of a poofy coral. That thing can shrivel down to the size of like one of my fingers. Right? It's poofy. Sorry. Inside joke. If you'd like to be in on the inside joke, just turn your AC down. Never mind. Never mind. But anyways, the increase of water quality, okay? The reduced amount of nitrates and phosphates causing toxicity within the skeleton, and the increase of alkaline trace minerals causing sort of like vitamin-enriched strength within the skeleton would allow it to exist in lower light conditions. Not only because of the natural toxicity mitigation that it has, but because that more alkaline, more mineral-rich as opposed to nutrient-rich water allows for different types of zooxanthellae to grow more prosperously. And these types of zooxanthellae can photosynthesize different spectrums and lower intensities of light. So where brown zooxanthellae requires red light and can utilize a lot of orange and yellow, right? Your chromatic red and your deep green glowing zooxanthellaes will almost invariably prefer blue and purple light spectrum. Right? So, what they're finding now is that because of the reduction in alkalinity, because of the increased acidity and just the shittiness of the water, corals deeper in the ocean are starting to bleach and starting to eject zooxanthellae, starting to have these fucking same problems that the shallow waters are having. Not because of temperature, just because of water quality. And then once you get to the point where you start having these algae blooms, understand this. The reason why things get as toxic as they do is because of the physical cloudiness of the water, keeping even hair algae from being able to photosynthesize. So you want to talk about how exponentially worse the problem gets leading up to the point of the blooms. You know, that's what I've been talking about for a long time. Now that the blooms are starting to happen, let's talk about how much worse the blooms themselves make things. See, what the blooms do, they don't just reduce the vitamin quality of the plant structure, causing less and less productive plants to grow, you know, which photosynthesize less and less, causing less and less oxygen production, increasing the carbon dioxide and the acidity of the water. It just blocks out the fucking light from them and makes them die. All of it. Even the crappy algae that replaced the good macroalgae just starts to die. And then all of the phosphates that all of that shit was locking up into its plant structure gets released. And then you have, I'm talking area-wide species extinctions, just because of the tolerance levels of not just corals, but fish, invertebrates, anemones, crustaceans. There's just so many different things that are so sensitive to water changes, to water quality changes. And when you talk about the ammonia and nitrite and nitrate and phosphate and sulfur, oh, there are so many beautiful life forms that I know live in that area who could not possibly be alive right now. The only ones that are alive are going to be the ones that they collected before this event. You know, I started the Lost-Begotten channel to warn of an impending doom. Because nobody listened, the world is spiraling out of control along the exact same path that I fucking warned about. Then I changed the Lost-Begotten channel to the Easy Reefers channel to warn of an impending doom. So what do you think is going to happen if nobody's allowed to, if I'm not allowed free speech without paying, if I'm not allowed to utilize a basic vital communication service, like every newspaper has some free public announcements sort of sections, right? You know what I mean? This is the modern equivalent of that. But I find it hard to find an analogy that qualifies. Or that measures up to the fuckery involved when it comes to things like CNN and MSNBC, and even Bill Maher, etc. Different relatively centrist broadcasters that get shadowed. Those videos get recommended. Videos that are simply designed to cost these major centrist outlets views. Because who's going to watch that and then watch the one from the real source? Who, like me, I mean, how many people like me say, no, I'm not going to watch them, I'm going to make sure I watch it on the, actual channel. But you keep having these different, what I call side uploaders. And before Rachel Maddow uploads her video, they got Rachel Maddow's video uploaded. Before this and that, they got this and that already up there for you. Recommended. I'm not recommended. I'm actually discussing things when I play clips from news videos. Moreover, the news clips that I use to introduce videos or live streams are invariably news videos that confirm things that I've been warning about for a long time. Oh, damn it. Got something stuck between a good tooth and a tooth that barely exists. Okay. That is just not comfortable. Ow, fuck. Sorry. But anyways, I think my little background and my production setup is pretty clever, you know. Lately I've been loading these images here, and then I'll start from the bike and then peel them off one by one, and then that's there. There was a black screen, you know, and then I go into the little intro thing, and I'm not going to do that now. You know, compared to the fucking videos that we had in the beginning, I think this is a lot more entertaining. Especially in, you know, when the morning starts in the fish tank and they start swimming around. And then even when I'm pausing to think about what the hell to say next, at least there's fish. What is it about cats in boxes? This moron. What? You're silly. She doesn't care where the box is as long as she's in it. Cartoon cat is distracting me. Yet again. How about that? I guess it's time to look through them headlines that caught my attention earlier. Why would you want my analysis on the daily news events? After all, I'm just a simple carpenter. Fish guy. Fish guy. Yeah, that's it. Right, fish guy. Tell him, kitten. So anyways, let's pretend that's not blurry for a while. So, CBS has got some sort of overload bot, so I can't play that. But I tell you what, being locked up with somebody, you get past all the bullshit, you know. And this guy was locked up with John McCain in Vietnam. If you can find the full interview, I recommend it. I'm going to be looking for it. But this is just a little series of clips right there on CBS this morning. Which is good that, you know, a show like CBS This Morning has been such a grounding point in the news over the past couple of years. It's no wonder they had to fucking Me Too Charlie. good on them for let's face it, the person who would have the most to say about the situation, other than John McCain himself, in fact even more so than John McCain himself, would be not just another POW, but one of the guys who was there with him. Go hear this guy's story, man, because it makes it real. But I'm fucking tired of Lindsey Graham's nonsense. He's spending so much time skirting the fucking fence. And he's gonna wind up with a piece of wood up his ass. Like, this guy here. Oh, when Trump talks about McCain, it pisses him off. It pisses him off. Oh, I see. When Republicans use bad words, it's, oh, they're speaking strong, you know, like what? It pisses Lindsey Graham off. But at the same time, while he's making sure he plays that side of things, he's gonna support Jeff Sessions being fired. Thought you used to be friends with Jeff Sessions. Although it's hard to picture them as like friends, Jeff Sessions and Lindsey Graham, without getting some sort of cartoon scenario in your head. Like the Kentucky Fried Mario and Luigi. Like, I do declare, Jeff, these Keebler crackers are delicious. What? Like, what a couple of caricatures these people have allowed themselves to be. That's what happens when you don't stand on principle. You don't stand on reason. It's not about personality. It's about how fake that fucking personality seems. Personality, when you have principle, comes out with somebody like Richard Painter. I wouldn't want to be Trump's lawyer. I don't want to go to jail. That is a great quote right there. Apparently found a video last night that had that title, but it was the wrong video. But, boy, I love Richard Painter. He's fucking hilarious. Just a wonderful human being in every way. I mean, the man is like, to me, almost like an answered prayer. He's like he's like one of my happy thoughts walking. Lawyer from the Bush administration, from Texas, that talks like a Texan, looks like a Texan, and sure as hell speaks his mind like a Texan. I don't know if you notice, but I'm about half Texan myself. But Mr. Painter is a fascinating individual. A caricature? No. Just a character. You see, when you watch Richard Painter, you're watching the real Richard Painter. When you're watching Lindsey Graham, you're watching just fucking acting. I mean, he's just got a persona. It's like these people all went to the same little cult training camp that Joel Osteen's from, you know? My friends. And Jeff Sessions. You know, he sits there and tries to sound like a freaking preacher. Tries to sound all moral and dignified. He probably uses more profanity than I do. The real Jeff Sessions is not like that. In fact, let me give him credit. The real Jeff Sessions is actually a complicated man who's learned a lot of tough lessons and who in many ways regrets the situation that he's in. But at the same time, there's enough stubbornness to fuel his incompetence, should I say. Because as I've previously pointed out, and many other people have, you know, people who actually know what they're talking about, the Attorney General serves the American people and the Constitution at the pleasure of the President, which means the President decides whether or not he's serving the American people and the Constitution. And for that basis, he continues to either have his position or is asked to resign. And it's on that basis that they're supposed to be appointed in the beginning, to begin with. We could have some simple rules that would keep a lot of situations like this from happening by balancing confirmation processes in general. Like, for instance, all committees and subcommittees shall be assembled with no more than a single member majority of any party. So, one vote means a stalemate, basically. there shouldn't be a situation in which one party runs every fucking thing, man. And there should be every attempt to limit power made by those who are in power. That's how you really know whether or not someone is a good president, when they actually take steps to limit the power of the executive branch and don't continually try to seize more, you know. So anyways, so the extortion case is definitely the legal tool with which to go after the social media entities that colluded with the Russians. Okay, it's extortion. What they've done to the American people while conspiring to aid and abet a terrorist attack, a cyber terrorist psychological warfare assault on the American people. They were also, and this is much more clear cut, extorting independent American voices. So, not only is it a situation in which I had to, or was expected to, but wasn't able to because I can't afford it, pay simply to have my voice heard. Okay, simply to have my social media posts seen. I'd have to pay to promote them. Okay. But at the same time, they were allowing a foreign government to outcompete my ability to cooperate with my extorters. So it's like, not only is your phone company saying, oh yeah, you can't really, make any calls right now because I want a little extra money from you. But then, oh yeah, by the way, it's going to have to be a little more money than we talked about earlier because the Russians are paying me so much money. I couldn't really give a fuck about the little bit that you could pay. Nice people. Your battery neeks. Like, I understand what you're saying, but it's a very interesting way of putting it. Is that like slang? I'm kidding. I know. Tell you what, Carlos, go ahead and give it a 10-minute break. I'm going to put on a little CNN thing regarding the racketeering of Donald Trump as it continues to this present day. It was certainly a lot worse during the election, but the fact of the matter is, we really need to be willing to make racketeering cases when it regards elections. We can't just let it even happen once without prosecuting it. Even as well covered up as it is, as well thought out and subtle as it was, it can't be allowed, because then you literally have fascism. Democracy is over. Whoever can intimidate people wins the election. I will see this entire continent sink into the ocean before that happens. But anyways, let's check into this little video here, because well, he's at it again. I knew he would be. Let me just I just realized that was a side uploader, so I'm gonna see if CNN has the same video up from the actual CNN channel right quick. Sorry, I hope you don't mind. Take a few seconds of patience to allow me to be honorable, because that's what it is when you do unto other channels as you would have them do unto your channel. That's called honor. Yeah, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's honor. If you don't abide by that principle, you have no honor. That's why honor applies to, what you do with somebody's possessions when they're not looking. What you do with somebody's body after they're dead. It's honor. Evidence doesn't even matter to Trump. What a naive little schoolgirl fucking statement. Of course evidence matters to Trump. Evidence doesn't even matter to all the people that are protecting Trump. Evidence matters to Trump. He's the one responsible for all of it. It's all evidence against him. It's about the other people who don't care about all the evidence. What a useless statement. Just a waste of fucking typing. Oh, Twitter's new rules for political issue ads. Oh. Twitter's new standards for how their good little extortable puppets will be allowed to have their limited free speech. Alright, come on, CNN. They've got a lot of interesting stories up, but wait, Sarah Palin wasn't invited to the funeral. That is fucking poetry right there. Sarah Palin wasn't invited to John McCain's funeral. Weren't they on a presidential ticket together? Wasn't that his running mate? That reflects a profound realization on the part of John McCain about the type of people that certain people are. what defines them, what kinds of actions they take, what kinds of company they keep. Alright. So it looks like this particular video ooh, Trump cancels raises for federal employees. Well, that's a good sign of a booming economy. He must be brimming with confidence. Well, that, and he's got to, budget out all his fucking golf trips to Mar-a-Lago once a week. Okay, so in this case, it seems like the CNN YouTube manager, who, let's face it, isn't very impressive, has once again just decided to not stir the pot too much. So I'm going to have to use a side uploader for this one.
Of the Republican Party, they both won big on primary night in Florida, and the governor's race there was set up an election day showdown that could have far-reaching implications for each party in November and beyond. Joining us now is New York Times White House correspondent, CNN political analyst Maggie Haberman, who's broken 12 stories in the last
12 hours.
12 hours, no. So thanks for being with us today. The primary results last night were fascinating.
Right.
And you look at Florida, and there is no candidate that President Trump, I think, is prouder of supporting than Ron DeSantis, who is now the Republican nominee
More
from
proud.
that state. Kellyanne Conway just spoke about this moments ago. Let's listen to what she said.
And you forgot the of.
I can't think of a candidate in this country who's leaned in more to the presidential endorsement than Ron DeSantis. He was down 20 points, won by 20 points, a true 40-point swing, but he took that endorsement from the president and he wore it very proudly. He incorporated it in his paid media campaign. He talked about it, and he's indicating to the people of Florida he will be a reliable supporter of the Trump agenda of lower taxes and fewer regulations, all the while respecting the states and local communities in the way that they are administering to the needs of their citizenry.
Look, it's obvious that the president's endorsement helps in a Republican primary. It's obvious it helps the president's image of himself that it is successful. We just don't know what it means in a general election.
Right, look, it was always going to mean more in a primary. But to be clear, as Trump has done this sort of less, now not so hostile, just takeover of the Republican Party, it is a mark, I think, of pride for him, given the pushback that he faced in his own primaries and the difficulty that he had leading up to his nomination convention in making sure that he was going to be the nominee, that he can sort of wave a magic wand and look at the effect that it has, especially because in the case of DeSantis, a lot of his advisors did not want him going in. They had tried to hold him back for a while. It was one of those instances where he did what he wanted to do at the end of the day, and hence says, look, see, I was right. It is definitely a feather in his cap, given that he has tried to influence these primaries and remake the party in his image. However, to your point, there is an equal and opposite effect, and there is such a thing as negative polarization in terms of politics, and you can see that as many votes as people supporting Trump gain, they risk losing it on the other side. And you saw that energy especially on the progressive left, in the Democratic primary in Florida. This was a surprise win for Gillum, who was clearly trending that way. It surpassed expectations, and that does say something about energy heading into the fall on the Democratic side, and that does say something about, again, an equal and opposite force against what Trump can do.
And then behind the scenes, how is President Trump feeling heading into the midterms? Because obviously in public he acts quite bullish, but then in private, as we've been discussing, there was this leaked audio of a closed-door meeting with evangelicals, no cameras, but some participant leaked the audio of President Trump resorting to fear-mongering tactics, saying if Democrats win, there'll be violence, and suggesting that they perhaps spread that message at the pulpit. That tells you somebody who's quite nervous about what's going to happen.
Remember, we last heard this, or who at least is willing to do anything to try to excite his own people, right? We last heard about that potential violence around Donald Trump's nomination in July of 2016, when some of his supporters, I think it was mostly Roger Stone, but perhaps a couple of others, were talking about the threat of violence if Donald Trump was denied the nomination after he had won all of those primaries. Sure, you are going to have people who are going to be upset, and there are going to be real arguments about fairness of process if Donald Trump had lost it. But saying there is going to be violence, look at this dangerous for you outcome that you're facing. This is not a new tactic for the president, but it still is really striking to hear a president saying it. This is not at Trump anymore.
And you've known her for a long time. He knows what he's saying.
Yes, he knows exactly what he's saying.
He's choosing these words specifically and carefully and for a reason.
Yes, and look, he has been warned repeatedly that there are problems with that kind of language. He doesn't care. It is where he wants to go. It is what he thinks is going to have the most impact. He bases a lot of his actions on shock, and we've seen this over and over. So this isn't a surprise, but he doesn't have a whole lot of other bags of tricks, because even in a great economy, they are still facing a potential loss of the House. There are some Democrats who are feeling more bullish about the Senate than they had been. They are facing, it's not definite, they are facing the risk of a Democratic wave. And so he doesn't have a whole lot of tricks in his bag to try to move against it. This is always one that he resorts to.
Okay, Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his fate. We've heard that, obviously the president continues to criticize him publicly, but we've also heard now that he is speaking with his top aides and lawyers, personal lawyers, about firing Jeff Sessions. What do we think his longevity?
He's been doing that for a year. There's really not a change. Since last July, when he actually got a resignation letter from Jeff Sessions, that he then got back from Jeff Sessions and undid because he was warned that this was going to be a disaster. Firing Jeff Sessions has been a hot stove that he has not wanted to touch, and he has known that he can't do, because the last time that he touched a hot stove was firing James Comey, and he got Mueller. So in some ways, Mueller has actually led to job protection for Jeff Sessions. The firing of Comey has led to job protection for Jeff Sessions. That said, it's a dysfunctional relationship. It has been for some time, and so you have Republicans who now recognize that this might not be sustainable this way. Maybe we can make a change after November. However, for all the times that Lindsey Graham says that, I'm not really certain who he has in mind as the replacement, because there is still going to be an uphill battle on confirmation. This has been the issue for the president the whole time, is getting new cabinet members approved. That would be very much the case with Jeff Sessions, especially depending on how he left. We keep hearing that Jeff Sessions is getting tired of it. We've heard that repeatedly too. As one two top Trump advisors has said to me, he wants to fire Jeff Sessions every day. This has not changed. And so there are days when he has gotten closer to it than others, but I think that you are just going to see a status quo heading into November.
The one change really is the language that Lindsey Graham and some other senators have chosen to use, which opens up a different type of window. I don't know if it's an August-September window or a November-December window. Those are two very different things.
Correct.
We'll see.
I don't think it's an August-September window. I think it is about greasing the skids heading into the fall. I don't think that was about the president's itchy trigger finger right now.
Let's talk about someone who's been in the middle of these discussions, or at least was, because I don't know how much he's talking with the president these days at all, which is White House counsel Don McGahn.
He's not talking to the president very much.
Well, that says a little bit. Axios is reporting this morning that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when Don McGahn leaves the White House, which is actually something that CNN and others have been reporting to an extent for a while, too. Axios makes it seem more imminent. Mm-hmm. Maggie, you obviously, the New York Times had that blockbuster reporting of that McGahn had been talking at length with the special counsel. Mm-hmm. Where is this relationship?
This relationship is basically in the past in terms of being a relationship that coexists in the White House. We had heard that McGahn was likely / expected to leave after the Kavanaugh hearings, assuming that he does get nominated, or does get cleared and Senate approved, because then he will feel like he has left his mark, and that will be really what he was there for, in part, was to steer these judicial appointments through. But there is no real relationship. Emmett Flood has been talked about as a replacement. I'm not positive that that's actually going to happen. Emmett Flood is currently handling the Mueller probe. He was the replacement for Ty Cobb, internally dealing with that. But the president's two favorite punching bags have been Jeff Sessions and Don McGahn, and I think you have seen both of them tire of it. McGahn certainly, I think, believes he has done all he can do at this point.
All right, now you hear me.
Interesting little summary. Anyways. So, unready for a possible Democratic takeover. Yeah, unready in any way. Trump, think about just terms of readiness, just terms of like actual regular performance as a president, as a politician. How ready is Trump to face a Republican Congress? Like, not just the impeachment thing. But, like, what the hell is he gonna do when there's, like, basic accountability in general? You know, those committees and whatnot. Laney, no ma'am. No. Silly little fucker. Anyways. Yep, Trumpy's in trouble, man, that's for sure. You're in bad shape when the White House counsel's leaving. Trump is tweeting his way into an obstruction of justice charge, says the former Bush ethics chief. Laney. Would you fuck off? Oh. Cat is all up in the middle of the camera stand. Yeah, I sure wish MSNBC was a little nicer about the content I could put up from there. It looks like Mr. Joe Scarborough's been off on some good rants. And apparently, according to the Daily Beast, Rudy Giuliani is working on a counter report to the Mueller probe. Oh boy. Anyways. So, let's just take that right there. Like, hypothetically, just describe to yourself what neoliberalism is. You know? Like, what is the objective? What is the end game? What is the result of a pure anti-religious takeover? Well, it's exactly what Trump is doing. As weird as that sounds, the more you think about it, the more true you realize that it is. You see, he's going after our national security infrastructure. He's going after our rule of law. It's it's an enforced thing. It's an anti-established government fascism, right? It's stick socialism is what it is. He wants the government to have control over the things that, he wants to control. And then for the government to not be involved in anything else, basically. And as libertarianism has been described as neoliberalism, Trumpism is actually perfect neoliberalism. Because more than outright arguing against religion or persecuting religion directly, he has made a complete mockery of conservatism as being associated with Christianity. What more productive use of any rhetorical device could there be to establish a Marxist utopia? And if you don't think he could flip from one hand, taking advantage of religious people, to on the other hand just starting to limit freedom of religion, you don't realize how disassociated things have already become. Hi, Looney. Bye, Lainey. So, neoliberalism is really Sovietism. It's Stalinism. And there couldn't be a more Stalin-like person in the White House. I don't even know how Stalin got his rise to power. But typically, people like this are seen for their independent accomplishments, and they try to show how great a man can be. And if you want to look at the power of a man over institution and the power of a man over even, religion and law, that's what people like Trump embody. That's what people like Stalin embodied, even Hitler. And people wanted to follow them because they felt powerful, because they saw how powerful they seemed to be. So it's this cult of personality mixed with populism that goes against the establishment with the promise of economic prosperity without the promise of corporate responsibility. That's the only thing missing here, Some people would argue that liberalism requires regulation. Well, not neoliberalism, because neoliberalism believes in absolute freedom. Neoliberalism is how you have just heroin on the streets and shit like that. Liberalism is like legalized pot. Okay, neoliberalism is legalized opium and fucking crack and meth and whatever. There's a difference. There's a big difference. Laney. No ma'am. Cut it out. Don't look at me like I won't fuck your world up, cat. I'll stuff you in that box of Cheerios. And you'll be happy as hell because you love being stuffed in boxes. Okay, you're right. You called my bluff. I'm like sitting there like, man. And she's just like, it is the no fucks given cat. But anyways, I love the True Facts videos from Zafrank. I'm convinced that he is Wesley from The Princess Bride's brother or something. Anyways. Doesn't look like anybody's rejoined. And, I think I've made my point. Conservatism was lost a long time ago. And it really became lost when it started to mean judgmentalism. And then it became blasphemy to even call itself conservatism when it basically became corporate imperialism, corporate mafiaism. And, the idea that having should mean that you should have an easier time having more, making more. And just the idea of money makes you deserve more money, and that investments shouldn't involve risk, and that you should just have all the advantages in the world because you have money already. All the judgmentalism, all the, saying that gay people are going to hell and stuff like that. That was all just to justify your own corrupt way of life. to justify their own greed and selfishness and callousness and apathy towards their fellow man. And the way this all culminated with the creation of Fox News and the plot that has gone undiscussed, unnoticed, that was a clear, precise strategy laid out against this country and undertaken throughout many decades and climaxing throughout the 1990s. That really needs to be understood before we can get honesty and integrity back into politics in a way that's anything more than a talking point. We have to understand how these far right things and these far left things are essentially the same. Because whether you're a Trump supporter or a Bernie baby, let's face it, they're all really a bunch of snowflakes, aren't they? That's because ultimately what they're supporting is the same thing. Because whether it starts with a utopian, fully regulated socialism, or it just starts with a neo-socialist fascism, it's gonna wind up in a neoliberal totalitarian state where freedom and support of the state, of the dear ruler of the party, or whatever they wind up calling it, is equivalent to freedom. These people let you do whatever you want, so they belong in power. Meanwhile, they get to do whatever they want. And that's what's happening right now. Thanks to the fuckers at YouTube who make it to where only my good little friends here, my few happy few band of merry brothers, that have been watching for 3 years now, over 3 years now. This little group of people, they're the only ones who are allowed to really show up, other than this fucking troll who consistently comes in here and harasses me with different screen names, posing as different people, always with the same agenda, always talking the same stupid shit, always with the obvious same personality. You know, people can try to play characters within the limits of their talent and intellectual capacity. His talent level and intellectual capacity is pretty obviously definable. All of these different screen names, even when they're not just changed bombardments, as we mute one another pops up, as we mute one another pops up, even when he tries to play it off more like he's actual different people, it's still so obvious that it's the same fucking person. Or the same little troll factory with the same grasp of the English language or political agenda or whatever. The same demon possessing whoever it is. Anyways, yeah, that's what it all boils down to. Even if there is more than one person, still the same demon controlling. But we've seen plenty of evidence that it's only one or two people, not, the 50 or hundreds of different screen names that they use. Anyways. Oh, my coffee's getting cold. And I'm going to go ahead and call it a broadcast. Now, before I go, I will reiterate the overarching prediction that needs to be made here. Eventually, what will ultimately cost us our religious freedom and our freedom of speech isn't going to be Trumpism, it's going to be the counterwave of uber-liberalism. Okay? And on the one hand, maybe they'll clean up the fucking ocean. Maybe. Maybe. But on the other hand, the results of Trumpism are going to be the simple reapings of the seeds that were sown. The seeds of chaff. The seeds of weeds. The seeds of thorns and thistles. And there will be only a bitter harvest left to be had once that occurs. You can't just allow Trump to be removed. You can't just allow Trump to be voted out. There has to be an issue made of what has divided this country, or the center will be hollowed out. And you're going to have two sides of the same shit. And we will be forever controlled by foreign puppets. Well, by forever I mean until we all die because we're poisoning the planet. But anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out, Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Conway. Hope you're doing okay. It's just kind of odd not seeing him. Might not be up yet. Well, no, he'd usually be up by now. But anyways, not trying to make you feel bad or anything. The whole thing I was talking about, just in case he winds up watching this video, the whole thing I was talking about with the blah 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 blah, Easy Reefers, can't remember the channel, the name of it, broadcast, I'd like to try to figure out what day that y'all would like to, be on here for sure, like the day that most everybody would show up. So we can have as rich a discussion as possible. Because I'm not trying to put any kind of filler on the Easy Reefers channel, just because there's too many videos on that channel. Whereas on this one, I'm just trying to get enough views on it per week to actually get it monetized. Which we're getting there slowly but surely. Anyways. So, if y'all can, message if you notice what day y'all have coming up where you're more than likely going to be bored and on the YouTubes. And I'll try to arrange the Easy Reefers thing for that. Maybe. I don't know. It's been hard to find motivation and time, and I've been struggling lately. And then just more bad news about my wife's condition. I just want the world to stop dying so it's all worthwhile, you know? Anyways. Pray for us. Pray for everything. Pray for you. Pray for the world. Pray for Dingo. And don't forget to click that like button. Thanks for watching. Peace.
nobody say no more.
Thank you.